Islam family, peace and love. This is honestly a topic I didn't want to even jump into, and I didn't think I would really have to. Um, but because of this global wide scamdemic thing that's going on, um, I at least have to chime in because I've been seeing not only that does it look like it's going to continue to keep on going, but there's a lot of misinformation being put out that I've seen. And some of it is ignorance of the law, and some of it is straight lying. I saw a barrister, a lawyer, attorney, whatever you want to call them, on the news, um, and he straight up lied. I can't even remember exactly what it was, but I know it's about something that I'm gonna be covering. It was yesterday, and I decided to do just a little bit of research, and what I came up with was not only hilarious, but I think I'm gonna be able to shed some light on the actual truth and the lawfulness of what's going on right now when it comes to these masks and these vax. I don't even want to say it all out because they might be looking to take people's channels down, demonetize, and things of that sort. And I ain't got no time for that because this is not even um, my beef or anything like that. This is not a subject that really affects Moors too heavily. Um, but it does affect slightly on day-to-day life, so I have to get into it now. First off, the comedy part of it. When you look into it, the face mask exemption card, I've seen several of these, um, from Europeans, Moors, but this is the most common one that I saw. It's actually put out by Europeans, and you know, I checked out their website, this FTB agency or Freedom to Breathe agency website, which is very hilarious. And I realized from the very beginning they're still in this government seal right here, misusing it, and they're not a government agency at all. They're just some European Trump supporters mostly, you know. And you know, it's funny to me that there are some Moors that are still making videos until this day, butthurt about Trump um, allegedly not winning. I don't care either way, and it doesn't really affect us Moors, to be honest, if we're operating properly, unless it's a Moor that has too much skin in the game, in the system. Um, hasn't put enough separation between himself and what's going on, so that he may have some minimal contacts that get affected, due to that kind of change in administration, which doesn't necessarily affect nationals in the way it would citizens. You know, um, but essentially, let's go in on this. They're saying they're exempt. Um, saying you have a disability. You're either mental or physical, but you don't have to explain your condition or whatever. Um, they're not quoting anything, you know, and they're saying it's a Department of Justice violation. How? I haven't seen anything in particular. Um, let's say it is though. I play both sides of everything. If it is, um, either way, to enforce it is going to be for the most part an after the fact thing after something happens. So, um, you know, if you want to try and use this and go get body slammed, just for refusing to comply or to leave an establishment, trespassing, what they'll try and call it maybe, or, things of that sort. Like, should they get into them kind of things? Do we have to wear a mask, as a private person. Um, no, but when you deal in the public and things of that sort, things change up a little bit. And I'm gonna get into that in just a second, but I wanted to also show this one here because this was funny as hell too. The mass exemption override card, you know, and it's pretty much saying, you know, what I said, that there's no ADA exemption for wearing a mask, or um, there's nothing that I've heard of. Maybe somebody can show and prove on that one, but to this day, I haven't heard anything that would suffice. Give me just a second. Islam. So, um, if anybody can find an actual ADA exemption and put that up, show me how it's applicable to anything. Because I'm pretty sure it would be statutory as well. But I'm not even gonna go into that there. That's a whole different thing. But like I say, that's the comedy side behind it. So let's get into the actual lawful side. Y'all know how I like to break things down and thoroughly exhaust the topic. So, can businesses slash jobs require whatever for entry, employment, things of that? There is what I'm gonna really get into on the lawful side of that there. And then talking about the mass versus the vax, because that's the thing that is gonna be coming next. What they're trying to do, what I saw, what was most disturbing to me. Um, talking about requiring vax as far as entry into certain places and things of that sort. And I was on some old hell no by um, the answer that the lawyer gave on TV. Um, so I'm not gonna say what he said and perpetrate no bullshit, but what I will do is break down what businesses you could say, or jobs, also. But can they require? Is it lawful? Things of that sort. Um, in the public, we have to define it, and we really gonna get in things. On the private, the answer is yes. They can require whatever they want to. Um, and think of a private business like Sam's. You have to be a member to go into Sam's. You have to have their card, or you can't even get in there and see what they're talking about. The only way you can get in to see what they're talking about is to get in and go get a member card first. If they let you in to get a member card, or a member brings you in and says, "Hey, come check it out with me. Let me show you around." That's private. That's like a Masonic lodge almost to a certain extent. So, if, you know, Sam's, let's go back to Sam's, if they want to require you to wear a mask for entry and it's part of their membership agreement, which is a contract, you have to abide to get in. I mean, if they say to come into Sam's, you have to wear a Baphomet head. I'm saying this jokingly, but I mean, with all seriousness, that's how things are on the private. That's how the private is operated. Um, Public discrimination and slavery is what's outlawed, not private. You can contract yourself um, into a slave position um, in the private, and if you agree to the terms of Sam's, that you will be a member slave until they decide to let you out of there. Um, that's what would happen due to the private contract. If you sign being of age and sound mind, you know, that's how the private operates. So when dealing with that, it's pretty much, that's how things are. So you either choose to or to not operate, with a certain business entity, whatever that is, on the private if you don't want to agree to their terms of the contract and things of that sort. Um, Now public, and I'm gonna define public. And private is mostly the opposite of this here, but I want to give real clarity when it comes down to public because it's a little bit more intricate. So, um, the definition I'm using here and the full definition is on my previous video. You can go back and check it out. Going in, talking about public and private as far as status correction, but just public in here for what we're dealing with: interest or activity under authority of government. Um, so basically, that's public companies filed with the government, capitalizing shares of stock or traded on the public market. Falling into those realms. So, since they're under the government authority as opposed to whatever their private contracts are, um, and especially if they're traded on the stock market, things of that sort, IPO public. I talk about companies being public in that status when it comes to discharging debt and things of that sort. They have to comply with what's called public policy, and um, when it comes to the authority of, let's say, so-called government, sheriffs, things of that sort, that is one of the only things that they actually do have authority on the land for directly when they're dealing with you. Like, they need a warrant, or you have to be doing something that is creating what they call a public safety hazard, or extreme public safety hazard. Um, and along the lines of that, um, it's kind of where they're trying to draw the line when it comes to these masks and these vax. It looks like it's going to be what's next with it. Um, so, public, for customers, employees, um, you know, can you be required? Mask. Um, my first immediate thing I put up here is there a state order? Um, is there a county order? You could also say, which is not as strong, even though state order. Um, well, let's say it like this here. Either way, it could be challenged, but when it comes to the lawfulness, when I say is there a state order, um, I mean a court order by the state's or county's judge. Has there been a judge to put out a court order? Because the sheriffs are bound to the court orders. Anyone in the public, as far as corporations and things of that sort, are bound to court orders. This is why when you do your court order name change, along with adding your nationality, things of that sort to it, and state that you're a national, not a citizen, they have to respect that with the Social Security, driver's license, and whoever else, because you have it on a court order coming from a judge. Just the same thing as if someone hit their woman and they got a restraining order. You know, once you have that court order, they have to go along with it. It's just the way it is because that is law in fact, on a certain level. And, there are different ways of defining it in different jurisdictions when it comes down to it, to what really, it all constitutes. But, you know, when it comes to the orders, for the most part, you would have to comply. Now, is there a remedy for that? Like, if you're trying to get around it, let's say you do have some actual condition, there's something relevant of why you can't wear a mask, things of that sort, vax, and I'm gonna get into the remedy on that one there as well. But you could take it to court. That is the direct remedy of how that is handled. Um, Even more so, I would say, um, for Moors, if it is something that is imminent to you, if you really believe that it's such a violation, the thing is not to try and combat it on the level where I see Moors trying to deal with it, and that is um, when they're actually going into these businesses, these places who don't understand the higher portions of law and things of that sort. They don't understand real procedure and things of that sort. They think everything is in stone and don't understand statute and things of that sort, and unconstitutionality. So the way you would deal with it is essentially the way politicians, lawyers, and things of that sort um, would deal with it. Let's say if there was a federal order to come down and they disagree with it, file a lawsuit immediately and get an injunction filed and things of that sort into the courts, as opposed to trying to fight, Jobo clerk at Target, because you walking in there and they disagree with you and they just high sprung and got holy zeal about what they think is law, as compared to your knowledge of law. You know, how is that going to turn out? They're not going to change their mind. So it's just like dealing with policy enforcers on the road. You don't fight the fight there. You fight the fight in court. And you can't always beat the ride on the road. The same thing, dealing with some of these people. If they lock you in their establishment and, call them folks on you, you might have to take that ride. And yeah, you could definitely beat it when it comes to this in the long run. But why go through all of that when you can understand the principles of law and how to really fight something if that's really what you want to do? So, I'm going to say, for the most part, customers and employees, when it comes to public establishments, if there's a state order or a local order from a judge, for the most part, it has to be followed by these corporate people. They're bound to it. So if they're going to comply with it, is really nothing you can do on that level but not deal with them. Or like I say, go file your stuff in court and, go after the problem from where it starts. Don't beef with the underlings that have no clue of what's going on. We're nobles and royalty, and it really looks bad. It looks bad, when anyone does it, when the Europeans does it, when, whatever, like when you don't understand, these certain procedures, but especially if you're supposed to be in the majority when it comes to law. We're not minors. We're supposed to know better. So we're supposed to know proper procedure when it comes to this kind of stuff. And ignorance of the law is no excuse. And, it's just a lot of Moors out here that are really making people look bad, or making Moors look bad, because we're supposed to be on our square. And like I say, I wouldn't even really came out with nothing about this topic, except for the fact that it seems like it's going to be a long, ongoing thing. There's always Moors, dibbling and dabbling in law and bumping heads here and there. And, I don't correct everything I see, because most of them is minor stuff. But like I say, when it comes to this, it looks like it might be extended out more with this scamdemic thing. And then let's really go to the next, the most important portion of it, really, is the vax. They trying to inject somebody with some bull twice, they saying because it's not strong enough or whatever. I ain't with it, all the way. So, private, can they require it? Yes, same thing. If they say privately, you gotta take a vac, you gotta, do a line, smoke a blunt, and, pop a pill to get in, and it's part of their private contract. you either gonna get in line with the contract or not. So, it's not even worth going into. But the public, there's always a little bit more intricacies when it comes to the public and the government um, dealing with things of that sort. So it goes back to is there a state order and things of that sort. So Vax. Let's go into employees first. I'm gonna start with that side before we go into the customers. Um, with employees, um, if that company is public, you know, it may be possible for them to put it into um, their company policy. More than likely, they're gonna implement it or try their damnedest to implement it on everybody. Um, what I will say and pose as my first question is that an at will state when it comes to employment? Because things differ from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but when it comes to employment, like so-called Texas, Tejas, in the public corporations operate under at will. Basically, the employer or the employee um, can enter in or leave the contract at will, and no other system even makes sense to me. Um, but I understand. They got other stuff that's out there, so you would have to definitely look into that first, because if that's the case, if it's an at will situation, it would no longer be my will to um, operate with whoever that is. Dealing with those people. I mean, I would say the goal is to get out of the system and to either work for Moors or have your own business or something along them lines. But not everybody's there yet, and I do definitely understand. Um, Now, let's say you're a public employee, government employee. Then it's definitely gonna be mandated. That's a tight situation. You know, because all government employees are public officials to a certain extent, or they're you have a loss of minimum contact when it comes to dealing with the public. Just to be all the way honest. When it's with the government, and they calling that public versus just IPO public company traded on the open market. Um, Benefits. Now that's gonna be a good question of how they're gonna try and do that with benefits. As far as employment benefits, I don't think it'll be as much of an issue when it comes to the vax, but the public benefits, as far as like people getting their stamps, they love food, monies, and things of that sort, um, Medicaids, Medicares, and all of that. There, yeah, you got to realize that those are citizen things, and for the citizen, the straw man in the public accepting these benefits, if they say you're gonna have to take them backs, you're gonna have to take them backs. And you might want to separate yourself as soon as possible. Now I understand how people, may be in need and things of that sort, but at a certain stance, we got to start operating on our own and trying to upgrade and do better for ourselves. Not to down anybody because I've been there. Not too far from there. But I'm doing better than I had been. Since I really got into my right mind. And that's what more is. So as you learn, you should grow. And maybe try and figure out something, or this is the perfect time to come up with your exit strategy. Um, Now, before I get into the remedy, I'm gonna get into this vax with the customers. Um, for public, they may try and administer it, but that's some bull. I don't see how they're gonna pull it off, even with all the statutory uh, fuck shit that they try. Just to be honest, I don't know how um, they're gonna be able to monitor that many people on that extreme of a level to see who has and who hasn't done the vac treatment or whatever. But they may. Um, the remedy. Boom. State exemption affidavit. When it comes to vax, that's something that's long been established. Now that usually deals in more general with all vax, not this particular one. So I don't know if they're gonna try and combat that at this moment, but usually you can do an affidavit and stating religious exemption reason why. Um, but basically to opt out of these BS vax if you don't want to subject yourself, your children to them. It's usually not a major issue. That usually gets to be um, only a problem, with the public dealing with like, well, I mean, even when it comes to benefits and stuff, I don't think they've really stress too hard on that. It's just schools. But even with schools, the affidavit usually gets it from what I've seen. And when I say state affidavit, meaning they have their own drawn up, you don't have to draw up your own, even though you could. And as more as appropriate persona, most of us do, you know, at a certain point get to that level where we could draw up that basic affidavit. It's not much. Um, but I had to mention it and bring it up. And I've hope I've exhausted this topic pretty well, so there are no other questions. If I haven't, or if I've left anything out, let me know, and I may either answer it on here or come on and do another video, depending on how deep it is. Um, but yeah, I definitely want to touch on this, get it out there, so everyone's not living in fear. And just to be honest with the mask, you might be able to have a exemption affidavit as far as that, but I don't even be pushing and stressing it too much. Um, I don't know. It depends on where you stay and who you're around. Houston is a real international city. We have a lot of different peoples from a lot of different places out here that customs and hygiene is not quite up to the par of what modern or even ancient Moors were. Um, so protecting myself from some of them, I don't mind wearing a mask, even though I know the effectiveness is at a minimum. Um, maybe 50%, max when it comes to these type of things with um, the cosmetic mask, which is what most of our people wear, not the actual, what do you call that, the medical mask or the N96, 92, or whatever that crap is. Most of us don't believe in are stressed out enough about the scamdemic to think that is necessary and that we gotta stock up on those things like that there. Not to say that no people have caught corona, that no people have died, but when it comes to the numbers and things of that sort, it's not as crazy, as had initially been portrayed. What happened to the people falling dead like in China? We haven't seen that anywhere outside of China, the initial hype behind all of this. So, arm yourself with knowledge, people. That's the best you can do when it comes to this type of stuff. Nothing else will suffice. Being out here ignorant, trying to fight people, or trying to force, your business upon people when, they have the right in some of these instances not to do business with you, it's out of line. So please, people, do what you can. But get yourselves together. Islam family, peace and love.